It happened so often that it started to feel normal, and that's the scariest part. Every time my wife and I were out, walking downtown, shopping, even grabbing coffee, she would scan the street like she was searching for someone. Then she'd stiffen, grab my arm, and hiss, "Go, don't stand here." At first I thought she was joking. Then she started pushing me away for real. Not a gentle nudge, an annoyed shove, like I was in her way. I'd step back, confused, and she would smile too brightly and say she'd meet me in a minute. And every time, I watched her go straight to her ex. She kissed him on the cheek like it was familiar. She hugged him like she missed him. She laughed at his jokes, touched his sleeve, leaned in close. It didn't look like polite small talk. It looked like a relationship that never ended, only paused when I walked into her life. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself she wouldn't do that in public if it meant something, but she kept doing it, again and again, always pushing me away so she could give him her full attention, like she wanted him to believe she was still his. My name is David Mitchell, and I've been married to Jennifer for 3 years. I'm a property manager for a small company here in Millbrook, Maine. Not glamorous, but steady work. I handle maintenance requests, tenant complaints, and the occasional eviction. It's taught me to read people, to spot lies, and to document everything, skills that would prove useful later. Jennifer works in HR at TechFlow Solutions, one of those sleek companies that moved to Maine for the tax breaks. She's good at her job, maybe too good. She knows exactly how to manage people, how to make them feel comfortable or uncomfortable, how to control situations without seeming like she's controlling them. That should have been my first warning. The pushing started about 6 months ago. We'd be at the farmer's market on Saturday morning, and suddenly she'd spot Lucas Hammond across the square. Lucas, her ex-boyfriend from college, the one she claimed meant nothing to her anymore. "David, can you go get us coffee? I see someone I need to say hi to." The first few times, I went. I stood in line at the coffee cart, watching her animated conversation with Lucas, telling myself it was innocent. Old friends catching up. Nothing more. But then I started noticing the pattern. It wasn't random encounters. She was looking for him, scanning crowds, checking her phone, timing our outings to match his schedule, and when she found him, I became invisible. "You're being paranoid," she'd say when I brought it up. "Lucas and I are just friends. You're reading too much into it." But friends don't push their husbands away. Friends don't lie about where they're going on Tuesday evenings. Friends don't delete text messages and change their phone passwords. I started paying attention to the details. Jennifer would shower before going to book club on Thursday nights. She'd wear her good perfume to grocery shopping on Sunday afternoons. She'd come home from work meetings with her hair freshly styled and her lipstick reapplied. And every time I asked about her day, she'd give me the same bright practice smile. Just the usual, nothing interesting. The lies were so smooth, so natural, that I almost believed them myself. Almost. Our friend group started to notice too. At least I thought they did. Mike and Sarah Patterson had been our couple friends since college. We'd have dinner every other weekend, play board games, complain about work and politics. Normal stuff. But lately, the conversations felt different. Strained. Like everyone was walking on eggshells around some topic we couldn't discuss. "How are things with you two?" Sarah would ask, glancing between Jennifer and me with concern in her eyes. "Great," Jennifer would answer quickly. "Everything's perfect." And Mike would change the subject, like he knew something I didn't. I should have pressed them for details. I should have asked what they'd heard, what they'd seen. But part of me didn't want to know. Part of me hoped that if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. That was my mistake. The night everything changed started like any other. Jennifer announced she was throwing herself a birthday party. Nothing big, just a few friends at our house. I offered to help plan it, but she waved me off. "I've got it handled. Just show up and look handsome." She spent weeks planning every detail. The guest list, the menu, the decorations. She was more excited about this party than she'd been about anything in months. I thought it was sweet that she wanted to celebrate with our friends. I didn't realize she was planning to celebrate without me. The party was scheduled for Saturday night. I spent the day cleaning the house, setting up chairs, arranging the food Jennifer had ordered. She disappeared for most of the afternoon. "Last-minute errands," she said, and came back looking like she'd spent hours at a salon. Her dress was new, black, fitted, expensive-looking. The kind of dress you wear when you want to impress someone specific. "You look beautiful," I told her, meaning it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thanks. I want tonight to be perfect." The guests started arriving at 7. Our usual crowd. Mike and Sarah, Jennifer's coworkers from TechFlow, a few neighbors. Everyone seemed to be having a good time, but I felt like I was watching the party from outside a window. People were polite to me, but distant. like they were keeping their distance on purpose. I tried to shake off the feeling and focus on being a good host. I refilled drinks, made small talk, told the story about Jennifer's surprise birthday gift, a weekend trip to Boston I'd booked for next month. "That's so sweet," Sarah said, but her smile looked forced. "I'm sure she'll love it." Jennifer was across the room, laughing with her coworkers. She looked radiant, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. For a moment, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe I'd been wrong about everything. Maybe tonight would be a fresh start. Then she pulled me aside. "David, I need to talk to you." Her voice was quiet, urgent. She led me into the kitchen, away from the party noise. "What's wrong?" I asked. She took a deep breath, like she was preparing for something difficult. "Lucas is coming tonight." My stomach dropped. "Your ex? You invited your ex to your birthday party?" "He's part of the friend group," she said defensively. "It would have been weird not to invite him." "Weird for who?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she put her hand on my arm, the way she used to when she wanted something from me. "Look, I know this is awkward, but I need you to do something for me. When he gets here, can you just give us some space? He's going through a rough time, and seeing you might make him uncomfortable." I stared at her. "Make him uncomfortable? At your birthday party? Because of me?" "You know what I mean. It's just easier if you're not hovering around when we're talking." "Hovering?" The word hit me like a slap. "I'm your husband, Jennifer. This is my house." Her eyes flashed with irritation. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm just asking you to be considerate. Considerate of your ex-boyfriend's feelings. Considerate of everyone's feelings." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. This woman who was asking me to hide in my own home so her ex wouldn't feel awkward. This woman who cared more about his comfort than my dignity. "No," I said. "I'm not doing that." Her face went cold. "David." "No, Jennifer. I'm staying at my wife's birthday party. If that makes him uncomfortable, he can leave." She opened her mouth to argue, but the doorbell rang. Her expression changed instantly, excitement mixed with panic. "That's him," she whispered. And for the first time in months, everything became crystal clear. I followed Jennifer back to the living room, my heart pounding with a mixture of anger and dread. I watched her smooth her dress, check her hair in the hallway mirror, and take a deep breath before opening the door. Lucas Hammond stood on our doorstep like he owned the place. Tall, confident, wearing a designer shirt that probably cost more than I made in a week. He worked in finance, something with investments that I never quite understood but that apparently paid very well. "Happy birthday, beautiful," he said, pulling Jennifer into a hug that lasted too long. She melted into his arms like she belonged there, like I wasn't standing 10 feet away, watching my wife embrace another man in our living room. "I'm so glad you could make it," she said, her voice soft and warm in a way it hadn't been when she spoke to me in months. Lucas stepped into the house, scanning the room with the casual confidence of someone who knew he was welcome. His eyes landed on me, and I saw something flicker across his face. Surprise, maybe, or annoyance. Then he smiled, and I felt my blood turn to ice. "Oh," he said, loud enough for half the party to hear. "You invited your ex too?" The room went quiet. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Everyone turned to look at us, at me, standing there like an idiot, trying to process what he'd just said. Your ex too. Not your husband, not David. Your ex. Jennifer's face went white. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. In that moment, everything clicked into place. The pushing me away, the secret phone calls, the lies about book club and work meetings. She hadn't been hiding an affair from me. She'd been hiding me from him. All those times she'd shoved me away in public, all those bright smiles and quick dismissals. She'd been pretending I was her ex-boyfriend. The old relationship she'd moved on from, the past she was ready to leave behind. She'd been telling Lucas she was single. The heat that rose in my chest was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Not just anger, pure, white-hot rage mixed with humiliation so deep it felt like drowning. I looked around the room at our friends, our neighbors, people I'd known for years, and I saw the truth in their faces. They'd known. Maybe not all of it, but enough. They'd known Jennifer was lying to someone, and they'd chosen to stay quiet. Mike wouldn't meet my eyes. Sarah was staring at her drink like it held the secrets of the universe. Jennifer's coworkers were whispering among themselves, probably placing bets on how this would play out. "Actually," I said, my voice cutting through the silence like a blade, "I'm not her ex. I'm her husband." Lucas's confident smile faltered. "Her what?" "Husband. You know, the The guy she married 3 years ago? The one whose house you're standing in right now? The color drained from Lucas's face. He turned to Jennifer, confusion and betrayal written all over his features. Jen? What's he talking about? Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Lucas, I can explain. Explain what? I interrupted. How you've been lying to him for months? How you've been pretending to be single while you're married to me? How you've been pushing me away in public so he wouldn't know the truth? David, please. Please what? Please keep quiet while you humiliate me in front of our friends? Please pretend I don't exist so you can play house with your ex-boyfriend? My voice was getting louder, but I didn't care. 3 years of marriage, 6 months of lies, and she wanted me to please keep quiet? You want to know the truth, Lucas? I turned to face him directly. Your girlfriend here has been living a double life. Married to me, dating you, lying to both of us. She's been telling you I'm her ex while telling me you're just a friend. Lucas looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Is this true? Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, the same tears she'd used to manipulate me dozens of times before. But they weren't going to work this time. It's complicated, she whispered. Complicated? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. What's complicated about lying? What's complicated about cheating? What's complicated about being so ashamed of your own husband that you pretend he doesn't exist? The party guests were frozen, watching our marriage implode in real time. I could see phones coming out, people starting to record. Jennifer's perfect birthday party was becoming a public spectacle. Good. You know what the worst part is? I continued, my voice steady now, cold. I actually believed you when you said I was paranoid. I believed you when you said I was imagining things. I let you convince me that I was the problem. David, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. Keep the stable husband at home while you played the field with your ex. String us both along until you figured out which one you wanted more. Lucas found his voice. Jen, how could you do this? I thought we were building something real. Jennifer looked between us, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for this to happen. I didn't know how to choose. Choose? I stared at her. You're married, Jennifer. You already chose. Or at least, I thought you did. The room was completely silent now, except for the sound of Jennifer's crying. I looked around at the faces staring back at me, some shocked, some guilty, some openly curious about what would happen next. Mike stepped forward, his face red with embarrassment. David, man, I'm sorry. I should have said something. Yeah, I said quietly. You should have. Sarah was crying now, too. We didn't know what to do. We saw them together a few times, but we weren't sure if you knew, if maybe you had some kind of arrangement. An arrangement? I turned to stare at her. You thought I had an arrangement for my wife to cheat on me? We didn't want to get involved in your marriage, Mike said weakly. But you were involved. You all were. You knew my wife was lying to me and you said nothing. You watched her humiliate me and you stayed quiet. I looked around the room one more time, at these people I'd thought were my friends, people I'd shared meals with, laughed with, trusted with the details of my life. You want to know what's really sick? I came to this party with a gift for my wife, a weekend trip to Boston for her birthday. I was going to surprise her later tonight, tell her how much I love her, how lucky I am to be married to her. Jennifer sobbed harder. But you know what? I am lucky. Lucky to find out the truth before I wasted any more years on someone who's ashamed to be seen with me. Lucky to learn who my real friends are. I pulled the envelope containing the Boston trip confirmation from my jacket pocket and set it on the coffee table. Happy birthday, Jennifer. I hope it was everything you wanted. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Lucas, good luck with her. But you might want to ask yourself, if she'll lie to her husband about you, what do you think she'll lie to you about? I left my own house, got in my truck, and drove away. Behind me, I could hear the party dissolving into chaos. Raised voices, slamming doors, the sound of my marriage ending in front of 30 witnesses. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I drove aimlessly for an hour, my hands shaking with leftover adrenaline. The streets of Millbrook blurred past as I tried to process what had just happened. 3 years of marriage. Destroyed in 10 minutes. A lifetime of trust. Shattered by a single sentence from a man who didn't even know he was the other man. Finally, I pulled into the parking lot of Murphy's Bar, the kind of place where nobody asked questions and the whiskey was cheap. I needed to think, and I couldn't do it in my truck. The bartender, a grizzled man named Pete who'd been serving drinks in Millbrook since before I was born, took one look at my face and poured me a double without being asked. Rough night? He asked. You could say that. I sat there for 2 hours, nursing my drink and staring at my phone. 17 missed calls from Jennifer. 12 text messages that I deleted without reading. 3 voicemails that I wasn't ready to hear. But it was the call from my lawyer that made me sit up straight. Tom Bradley had been my attorney since I'd bought my first rental property 5 years ago. He was thorough, practical, and didn't waste time on pleasantries. David, I just got a very interesting call from Jennifer's coworker. Something about a public confrontation at a party? Word traveled fast in a small town. Yeah, you could call it that. Do you want to tell me what happened, or should I just start preparing divorce papers? I told him everything. The months of lies, the public humiliation, the revelation at the party. Tom listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. How solid is your evidence? He asked when I finished. What do you mean? Text messages, photos, witnesses. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. That's when I remembered something. Jennifer and I shared a cell phone plan, and I had access to the account records. I also had our home security system, which recorded everyone who came and went. And thanks to my job in property management, I knew exactly how to document everything legally. I'll call you tomorrow, I told Tom. I need to go home and gather some evidence. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Jennifer's car was gone, probably at Lucas's place, or maybe at Mike and Sarah's, trying to salvage what was left of her reputation. I went straight to my home office and fired up my computer. The security system showed me everything I needed to know. Lucas's silver BMW in my driveway on Tuesday afternoons when I was at work, Jennifer leaving the house dressed for a date and returning hours later with her hair mussed and her makeup gone. The cell phone records were even more damning. Hundreds of texts between Jennifer and Lucas over the past 6 months, most of them during work hours, when she knew I wouldn't be checking her phone. I printed everything, every text, every photo, every login record that showed her deleting messages from her phone. By the time I was done, I had a stack of papers 3 inches thick. But the real smoking gun was the email I found in her drafts folder. It was addressed to Lucas, dated just 2 weeks ago. I can't keep doing this much longer. David is getting suspicious, and I'm tired of hiding. I think it's time to tell him about us. I know you're worried about the drama, but we can't build a real relationship on lies. I love you, and I want to be with you. I just need to find the right way to end things with David first. She'd never sent it. Probably lost her nerve at the last minute. But it proved everything I'd suspected. She'd been planning to leave me for months, just waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger. I made copies of everything and locked the originals in my safe. Then I did something that would have seemed impossible 12 hours earlier. I packed all of Jennifer's belongings, every dress, every shoe, every piece of jewelry I'd given her over the years. Her books, her photos, her collection of expensive skincare products. I packed it all into boxes and garbage bags, working methodically through the night. By sunrise, every trace of Jennifer Mitchell was sitting in neat piles on the front porch. I changed the locks while I was at it. New deadbolts, new security codes, new passwords on all our shared accounts. I canceled her credit cards, removed her from our bank accounts, and transferred all the utilities into my name only. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote her a note. Jennifer, since you're so concerned about making people uncomfortable, I thought I'd solve that problem for you. Now nobody has to be uncomfortable anymore. Your belongings are on the porch. Your keys won't work. Don't bother calling. I'll be communicating through my attorney from now on. David. I taped the note to the front door and went to bed. I woke up 6 hours later to the sound of screaming. Jennifer was standing on the front lawn in last night's party dress, her hair wild and her makeup smeared. She was yelling at the boxes, at the house, at the neighbors who had come out to watch the show. You can't do this, she shrieked. This is my house too. I opened the bedroom window and looked down at her. Actually, it's not. Check the deed. My name only. It was true. I'd bought the house 2 years before we got married, and we'd never gotten around to adding her name to the title. At the time, it had seemed like a minor paperwork issue. Now, it was my salvation. David, please, we can work this out. No, I said simply. We can't. Mrs. Larkin from next door was standing on her porch in her bathrobe, phone in hand. I could see her taking pictures, probably already uploading them to the neighborhood Facebook group. You're making a scene, Jennifer. Maybe you should call Lucas to come pick you up. That shut her up. She looked around at the growing crowd of neighbors, realizing that her public meltdown was only making things worse. This isn't over, she said, but her voice had lost its edge. Yes, I said. It is. I closed the window and watched from behind the curtains as she loaded her belongings into her car, making multiple trips while the whole neighborhood watched. By the time she drove away, Half of Millbrook knew that Jennifer Mitchell had been caught cheating on her husband. My phone rang. Tom Bradley. "I hear you've been busy," he said, "just protecting my interests." "Good. Can you be at my office in an hour? I've got divorce papers ready for your signature." As I drove to Tom's office, I passed Jennifer's car parked outside Lucas's apartment building. I wondered how that conversation was going. How do you explain to your boyfriend that you've been married the whole time? How do you rebuild a relationship that was founded on lies? Not my problem anymore. Tom's office was a modest space above the hardware store on Main Street. He'd been practicing law in Millbrook for 30 years, and he knew everyone's business almost before they did. "This is going to be straightforward," he said, spreading the papers across his desk. "No kids, no shared assets, clear evidence of adultery. She'll probably try to fight it, claim emotional distress or some nonsense, but she doesn't have a leg to stand on. How long will it take? In Maine, with evidence this clear? 6 months, maybe less if she doesn't contest it." I signed the papers, feeling lighter with each signature. Tom would serve Jennifer later that day, probably at work. Another public humiliation, but one she'd earned. "There is one thing," Tom said as I prepared to leave. "Your mutual friends might try to pressure you to reconcile. People don't like taking sides in a divorce." "They already took sides," I said. "They just didn't tell me which one." As I walked back to my truck, I saw Mike Patterson coming out of the coffee shop. He spotted me and hesitated, like he was debating whether to approach. He chose wrong. "David, hey man, can we talk?" I stopped walking, but didn't move toward him. "What about?" "Last night. That whole thing with Jennifer and Lucas. Look, Sarah and I feel terrible about how everything went down." "You feel terrible," I repeated. "Interesting." Mike shifted uncomfortably. "We should have said something sooner. We should have told you what we saw." "Yeah, you should have. But maybe... do you think there's a chance you two could work things out? Marriage counseling or something? Jennifer's really torn up about this." I stared at him. "Mike, my wife has been cheating on me for months. She's been telling her boyfriend that I'm her ex. She's been lying to everyone, including you. And you think we should go to counseling?" "People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Dozens of choices made over months to lie to me and humiliate me and betray our marriage." Mike looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my expression stopped him. "Jennifer called Sarah this morning," he said instead. "She's staying at Lucas's place, but it's not going well. He's pretty upset about the whole deception thing." "Good. David, come on. Don't be like this." "Like what? Like someone who has self-respect? Like someone who won't be a doormat for a cheating wife and friends who enable her? That's not fair. You know what's not fair, Mike. Watching your wife flirt with her ex for 6 months while your friends pretend not to notice. Having your marriage end in front of 30 people because nobody had the guts to tell you the truth." Mike's face reddened. "We were trying to stay out of it." "No, you were trying to avoid drama. There's a difference." I started to walk away, then turned back. "By the way, you and Sarah are welcome to stay friends with Jennifer. But don't expect to stay friends with me. I'm done with people who think loyalty is optional." The look on Mike's face told me everything I needed to know. He'd expected me to forgive and forget, to sweep Jennifer's betrayal under the rug for the sake of keeping the friend group intact. But I wasn't the same man who'd walked out of that party last night. That man had been willing to ignore red flags, to make excuses for people who didn't deserve them. This man was done being anyone's fool. Word of Jennifer's affair spread through Millbrook like wildfire. By Monday morning, it seemed like everyone in town knew about the birthday party confrontation and the dramatic porch scene that followed. I discovered this when I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts for my usual coffee and found myself the center of sympathetic looks and whispered conversations. "David," called out Mrs. Chen from the dry cleaner next door. "I heard about Jennifer. I'm so sorry, honey. You deserve so much better." It was surreal, being the object of pity in a town where I'd lived quietly for years. But there was something oddly liberating about it, too. No more pretending everything was fine, no more making excuses for my wife's behavior. The truth was out, and it felt like breathing again. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Maya, Jennifer's friend from work. Can we talk? It's important." Maya Rodriguez. I remembered her from office parties. Young, ambitious, always taking selfies for her Instagram account. What could she possibly want with me? I texted back, "About what?" "About Jennifer and Lucas. There are things you should know." We agreed to meet at Murphy's bar after work. Maya arrived 20 minutes late, looking nervous and checking her phone constantly. "Thank you for coming," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I wasn't sure you'd want to talk to anyone from Jennifer's work. Depends what you want to talk about. Maya fidgeted with her drink. I feel terrible about what happened at the party. Everyone's been talking about it at the office. I bet they have. The thing is, I knew about Jennifer and Lucas. I've known for months. I wasn't surprised, but hearing it confirmed still stung. And you said nothing. I didn't know what to say. Jennifer told me you guys had an open marriage, that you were okay with her seeing other people. That stopped me cold. She said what? She said you'd both agreed to see other people, but you wanted to keep it private. She made it sound like some kind of modern arrangement. I felt the familiar heat of anger rising in my chest. Even in her lies, Jennifer had found a way to make me complicit in my own humiliation. Maya, I had no idea about any of this until Saturday night. We never had any kind of arrangement. Her face went pale. Oh my God, she lied to me too. What else did she tell you? That you were having problems, that you might be getting divorced soon anyway. She said Lucas was helping her through a difficult time. Maya pulled out her phone and scrolled through her photos. Look, I took this last month at the company picnic. The photo showed Jennifer and Lucas at a picnic table, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing. They looked like a couple. A happy couple? She introduced him as her boyfriend, Maya continued. To everyone, our boss, the other managers, people from other departments. Nobody knew she was married. Another layer of betrayal. It wasn't enough to lie to me and Lucas. She'd been lying to her entire workplace, building a false narrative where I didn't exist. There's more, Maya said quietly. Jennifer's been telling people that you're controlling, that you don't let her go out or have friends. She's been painting herself as the victim of an abusive marriage. The words hit me like a physical blow. Abusive? She showed up to work with a bruise on her arm a few weeks ago, said you grabbed her during a fight. Everyone felt so sorry for her. I remembered that bruise. Jennifer had gotten it moving boxes in the garage, banged her arm against a metal shelf. She'd laughed about it at the time, called herself clumsy, but apparently she'd found a better use for it. Maya, I have never laid a hand on my wife. Never. I believe you, she said quickly. Especially after seeing how you handled things at the party. You could have gotten violent, could have made a scene, but you just told the truth and walked away. We sat in silence for a moment while I processed this new information. It wasn't enough for Jennifer to cheat. She'd had to destroy my reputation too, paint me as an abuser to justify her affair. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Maya looked uncomfortable. Because I think you should know what people are saying, and because I feel guilty for believing her lies. Is there anything else? She hesitated. Jennifer's been asking people at work to back up her story, to say they witnessed you being controlling or aggressive. Most people are staying out of it, but her boss, Mr. Harrison, is asking questions about her relationship with Lucas, about whether it violates company policy. Jennifer's been telling people that you're trying to get her fired out of spite. I laughed bitterly. I haven't contacted her workplace at all. I know, but she's panicking. The whole thing is falling apart, and she's trying to control the narrative. Maya finished her drink and stood to leave. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Jennifer fooled a lot of people, but that doesn't make it right. After she left, I sat alone in the bar, thinking about everything she'd told me. Jennifer wasn't just moving on with her life. She was actively trying to destroy mine. The victim narrative, the abuse allegations, the attempts to turn our mutual friends against me. It was time to fight back. I pulled out my phone and called Tom Bradley. Tom, it's David. I need to add defamation to the divorce filing. What happened? I told him about my conversation with Maya, about the lies Jennifer was spreading at work. Tom listened carefully, asking for details and taking notes. This actually helps us, he said when I finished. If she's making false accusations of abuse, we can demand a retraction. And if she's violated her company's fraternization policy, that's her problem, not yours. Can we prove she's lying? Do you have any documentation of the incident where she claims you grabbed her? Photos, medical records, anything? I thought back to the day she'd hurt her arm. Actually, yes. We have security cameras in the garage. The footage should show her hitting her arm on the shelf. Perfect. Get me that footage, along with any other evidence you can find. Text messages, emails, anything that contradicts her version of events. I spent the next 2 hours at home, going through our shared files and backup drives. What I found was even more damaging than I'd expected. Jennifer had been documenting our marriage for months, but not in the way she'd claimed. Instead of evidence of abuse, I found dozens of photos and videos that showed us happy together. Date nights, weekend trips, quiet moments at home where we looked like any normal couple. But more importantly, I found her real journal, Not the fake one she'd probably prepared for her lawyer, but the private one she kept on her laptop. The entries painted a very different picture than the one she was selling to her coworkers. David bought me flowers today for no reason. Sometimes I forget how sweet he can be. I feel terrible about what I'm doing, but I can't help myself. Lucas makes me feel alive again. Had dinner with David and his parents tonight. He was so proud to introduce me as his wife. I wanted to throw up. How did I become such a liar? David asked me about book club again. I'm running out of excuses. Maybe I should just tell him the truth and get it over with, but I'm not ready to give up Lucas yet. Entry after entry, documenting her guilt, her lies, her deliberate deception. No mention of abuse, controlling behavior, or marital problems beyond the ones she was creating. I copied everything and sent it to Tom, along with the security footage from the garage. Within an hour, he called me back. David, this is a slam dunk. Not only do we have evidence that she's lying about the abuse, but we have her own words admitting to the affair and the deception. What happens now? Now we go on the offensive. I'm going to contact her attorney and demand a full retraction of any abuse allegations. If she refuses, we'll file a defamation suit that will cost her more than the divorce. And her job? That's not our concern, but if her employer finds out she's been lying about domestic abuse to cover an affair, that's probably a fireable offense. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt like I had some control over the situation. Jennifer had been playing games, manipulating people, trying to rewrite history to make herself the victim. But the truth has a way of coming out, especially when you're married to someone who documents everything for a living. My phone rang. It was Sarah Patterson. David, we need to talk. About what? About Jennifer, about what really happened. Mike and we owe you an apology. Yes, I said. You do. Sarah and Mike arrived at my house an hour later, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. I let them in but didn't offer coffee or try to make them comfortable. They'd forfeited the right to my hospitality when they chose to protect Jennifer's lies over our friendship. We heard about the things Jennifer's been saying at work, Sarah began, her voice small, about you being abusive. And we know it's not true, Mike said quickly. We've known you for years, David. You're not that kind of person. But you thought I was the kind of person who'd be okay with an open marriage. Sarah winced. Jennifer told us that too. She said you both had agreed to see other people, that it was all very mature and modern. And you believed her. We wanted to believe her, Mike admitted. It was easier than thinking she was just cheating. I looked at these people I'd once considered my closest friends. You know what the worst part is? Even if we did have an open marriage, even if I was okay with Jennifer seeing Lucas, you still should have told me you knew about it. What do you mean? Sarah asked. If it was all above board, if it was something I knew about and approved of, then there would be no reason to hide it from me, right? The fact that you felt like you had to keep it secret should have told you something was wrong. They exchanged a glance. I could see the realization dawning on their faces. We screwed up, Mike said finally. Yeah, you did. Sarah was crying now. Is there any way we can fix this? Any way to go back to how things were? No, I said simply. There isn't. David, please. We made a mistake, but we're still your friends. Friends don't let friends get humiliated by their cheating spouses. Friends don't cover up lies and betrayals. Friends don't choose the easy path when someone they care about is getting hurt. Mike's face reddened. We were trying to stay neutral. There is no neutral when someone's being betrayed. There's right and wrong, and you chose wrong. So that's it? Sarah demanded, her sadness turning to anger. You're just going to throw away years of friendship over this? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you decided Jennifer's comfort was more important than my dignity. You're being unreasonable, Mike said. People make mistakes, or people have affairs. It doesn't mean you have to burn down your entire life. I stared at him. My wife didn't just have an affair, Mike. She created an elaborate lie that made me complicit in my own humiliation. She told her boyfriend I was her ex. She told her coworkers I was abusive. She's been systematically destroying my reputation while playing the victim. We didn't know about any of that, Sarah protested, because you didn't want to know. You saw what you wanted to see and ignored the rest. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt my blood pressure spike. It was from Lucas. We need to talk. Meet me at Murphy's in an hour. I showed the message to Mike and Sarah. Looks like the other man wants to have a conversation. You're not going to meet him, are you? Sarah asked. Why wouldn't I? Because it's a bad idea. Nothing good can come from that. I looked at her with disgust. You're still trying to manage the situation, aren't you? Still trying to keep everyone comfortable and avoid drama. That's not what I'm doing. Yes, it is. You're more worried about what might happen than what already has happened. You'd rather I hide from Lucas than confront the man who's been sleeping with my wife. I stood up and walked to the door. I think you should leave now. David, Mike started. No, we're done here. You made your choice months ago when you decided to protect Jennifer's lies. Now you get to live with the consequences. They left without another word, and I watched them drive away with a mixture of sadness and relief. Losing friends hurt, but keeping friends who couldn't be trusted hurt more. An hour later, I walked into Murphy's bar to find Lucas already there, nursing a beer and looking like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. He was still handsome in that generic finance bro way, but the confidence was gone. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down across from him. What do you want, Lucas? He took a long drink before answering. I want to apologize. For what? For sleeping with your wife, for believing her lies, for that comment at the party about you being her ex. I studied his face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. What I saw instead was genuine remorse and exhaustion. Apology noted, I said. Anything else? I need you to know that I didn't know she was married. I swear to you, David, I had no idea. I believe you. That seemed to surprise him. You do? Jennifer's a very good liar. She fooled me for months, and I was married to her. I can see how she'd fool you too. Lucas slumped in his chair. She told me you two had been broken up for over a year. She said you were just living together until she could find her own place. She made it sound like you were barely even friends anymore. What about all the times she pushed me away in public? She said you were her ex who couldn't accept that it was over, that you kept trying to win her back, and it made her uncomfortable. I had to admire Jennifer's skill. She'd taken the truth and twisted it just enough to make me the villain in both stories. To me, Lucas was just a friend. To Lucas, I was the obsessive ex who wouldn't let go. How long were you two together? I asked. 6 months, since January. The same timeline I'd suspected. And in all that time, you never suspected anything? Lucas shook his head. She was careful. We only met during the day, never at her place, never when you might be around. She said she didn't want to hurt your feelings by flaunting the relationship. Very considerate of her. I thought so at the time. Lucas finished his beer and signaled for another. Can I ask you something? Sure. What was she like when you first met her, before all this? I thought about it. Charming, funny. She made me feel like the most interesting person in the room. She was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Yeah, Lucas said quietly. That's how she was with me too. We sat in silence for a moment, two men who'd been played by the same woman. What happens now? Lucas asked. Now you figure out if you want to be with someone who's capable of lying like that, and I move on with my life. Are you okay? I mean, I know this has to be devastating. I considered the question. You know what's weird? I thought it would be. I thought finding out my wife was cheating would destroy me, but mostly I just feel relieved. Relieved? Relieved that I'm not crazy. Relieved that all those red flags I was ignoring were real. Relieved that I don't have to pretend anymore. Lucas nodded slowly. Jennifer's been calling me nonstop since Saturday, crying, apologizing, begging me to give her another chance. And I don't know if I can trust her. If she could lie to you for months, if she could lie to me for months, how do I know she won't lie to me again? You don't, I said simply. She keeps saying it was different with me, that what we had was real. Maybe it was. Maybe she really does love you, but love doesn't excuse betrayal, and it doesn't erase lies. Lucas was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I think I'm going to end it with her. That's your choice to make. I can't build a relationship on a foundation like this. Every time she's late coming home, every time she doesn't answer her phone, I'll wonder if she's lying to me too. I finished my drink and stood to leave. For what it's worth, Lucas, I think you're making the right choice. David, he called as I reached the door. Yeah? I really am sorry about all of it. I know you are. As I walked to my truck, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity for Lucas. He was about to learn what I'd learned on Saturday night, that the woman he thought he loved was a stranger, that the relationship he'd thought was real was built on lies. It was a hard lesson, but a necessary one. My phone rang as I drove home. Tom Bradley. David, we just got word from Jennifer's attorney. She's agreed to a no-contest divorce and a full retraction of any abuse allegations. What changed her mind? Apparently her employer found out about the affair and the lies. She's been suspended pending investigation. Her attorney advised her to cut her losses and settle quickly. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck for a moment, processing the news. It was over. Really over. How long until it's final? I asked. 6 weeks, maybe less. She's also agreed to pay half the legal fees and sign a non-disclosure agreement about the abuse allegations. Meaning? Meaning she can't talk about your marriage publicly, and if she does, we can sue her for everything she's worth. After I hung up, I sat in my driveway looking at the house Jennifer and I had shared for 3 years. Tomorrow, I'd start redecorating. I'd get rid of the furniture she'd picked out, the art she'd hung on the walls, the traces of a life we'd built together on a foundation of lies. But tonight, I was just grateful for the silence. No more wondering where she was, no more making excuses for her behavior, no more pretending that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. For the first time in months, I was alone in my own house, and it felt like home again. My phone buzzed with one last message. Jennifer, please call me. We need to talk. I deleted it without responding and turned off my phone. We'd said everything we needed to say at the party. Everything else was just noise. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in November. I signed the papers in Tom Bradley's office while Jennifer signed hers somewhere across town. We didn't see each other, didn't speak, didn't have any dramatic final confrontation. It was exactly how I wanted it. Quiet, efficient, final. Jennifer had moved to Portland after losing her job at TechFlow. Word was that she was working as a temp while looking for something permanent. The abuse allegations had followed her, even after the retraction, making it difficult to find work in HR. Lucas had ended things with her 2 weeks after our conversation at Murphy's Bar. He'd moved to Boston for a new job, probably wanting to put as much distance as possible between himself and the whole mess. Mike and Sarah tried to come back around, but I shut the door and they eventually stopped calling. I didn't miss them. What I did miss, oddly, was the chaos. After months of lies and revenge, the quiet felt unfamiliar, but it was the good kind of unfamiliar. I started dating again. Nothing serious, just honest conversations, and I started therapy to understand why I ignored so many red flags. The truth was simple. Believing Jennifer was easier than facing reality. The day the divorce became official, an envelope showed up with Jennifer's handwriting. Inside was a short apology admitting I'd been right. I read it twice and threw it away. Some apologies arrived too late to change anything. That night I ate with my parents. Admitted my only regrets were the time I wasted and the excuses I made, not the decision to leave. Driving home, I realized the man who accepted disrespect just to keep the peace was gone. This house was mine now, this life was mine, and for the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I poured a glass of wine, looked around the silent room, and raised it anyway. To uncomfortable truths, I said, and to the courage to face them.